Okay, so Jesse asked a really good question because yesterday they were talking all about, they're calling every black belt there a professor at Fight to Win. And she was like, what's with this term professor? I've never heard it before. And, you know, Jesse's new to jiu-jitsu. And she was like, man, I'm confused by this. And I was like, man, the term professor gets thrown around so crazy in jiu-jitsu because really it's literally just a Portuguese word for teacher that we like to use here in America. It's the same like using Japanese words to describe the judo throws or stuff like that. It's like, guys, just call it a hip toss. You don't have to call it ogoshi. I get it that in judo schools they call the hip throw ogoshi, but guys, ogoshi in Japanese literally just translates to major hip throw. So you can just call it that, you know. The same thing with professor. Like you can just call, you don't have to use the word professor. It literally just means teacher, but in Portuguese. And if you look at it, I feel like it gets thrown around all the time in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for black belts. Anytime that someone's a black belt and they're an instructor, they get called professor. When actually, if you look at the Gracies and what they put out through their curriculum, which is allegedly the source of this stuff, that's a different topic as to whether or not the Gracies actually created this stuff. But we draw our belts and our lineage and the system for the belts. The system for the belts came from the Gracie family. In that system, the professor term gets applied at the 3rd degree black belt. So, and until then, you're just a regular black belt. And I also think it's really weird, this is kind of a side note, but I think it's really weird that in most martial arts, like judo for instance, when you get your black belt, you start as a 1st degree black belt. So when you get your shodan in judo, is what they call it, you become a 1st degree judo black belt. And I believe it's the same in karate, where when you get your karate black belt, you're a 1st degree karate black belt. And I could be wrong about that. If you're a karate guy and I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But yeah, I think it's weird that in jiu-jitsu, we start people off basically as a 0 degree black belt. And then after 3 years go by, then you're supposed to get your 1st degree black belt. But I just always thought it's odd that they start them at 0. So you're actually a 0 degree black belt when you get your black belt. And I always thought that was just a little weird. And I know it's just really a semantics thing, but I guess that's what I'm talking about here, is semantics. So if you don't like talking about semantics, maybe go watch a different video on the channel. But yeah, I was just thinking about the ranks, and I was explaining to Jessie about how the black belt ranks work, and she was like, oh, you should make a video about this. So yeah, the way it's supposed to work, the way I understand it, is from obviously you have white, and then you have blue, purple, and then brown, and those are the adult belts, and then you get to the black belt. And then there's you start off, like I said, as a 0 degree black belt, and then you go and become a 1st degree, and then a 2nd degree, and then a 3rd degree, and each of those are supposed to be a 3-year period. You get to your 3rd degree, and then you're able to be called professor. And then I believe, I've got to look this up, I should have looked it up before making this video, but kind of doing it on the fly. I believe it then changes to 5 years. After you hit your 3rd degree, it then becomes 5 years per degree. So 3 to 5, that's every 5 years. And then I believe once you hit your 5th or your 6th degree black belt, that's when you get a new title, which is master. Then you become, I think it's at the 6th degree black belt, then you go from professor to master. And that's when they give them the coral belt, and they get the black and red belt. And then after that, I believe then it goes to, I think it goes to 10 years then per degree. And then you have to, you get, I think 10 years go by and you go to 7th, and then another 10 years go by and you go to 8th degree. And then I believe at 8th degree is when they do the red belt. I'll have to double check that, but I think it's either 8th degree or 9th degree is when you go to the red belt. And there's also the red and white belt. I think the red and white belt might be at 7th or 8th degree. But here's the thing, guys. I've been training for 14 years and I don't even know this stuff off the top of my head. Like, I'm literally gonna have to go look this up and double check this because it's confusing. But yeah, it's like they switch you over to a red and white belt, I think at the 7th degree, and either the 6th or the 7th. And then you go to the all red belt, I believe at the 8th degree. And then 8th and 9th degree is the red belt. And when you get the red belt, that's when the title goes from master to grandmaster. And yeah, that's when you're super fancy, like Master Splinter. Like, for example, Helson Gracie, I got to go to a seminar once with him, and everyone was calling him Grandmaster. Grandmaster Helson, Grandmaster. And
do you get like as you change like belts like every 3-5 years? Is that also when they get a stripe? They get the stripe at the time.
Yeah, so they get a stripe. But here's the thing: most of these guys, because they're going to be most of the time, because they're going to be that for 10 years or 5 years or whatever, and it's obviously a very high level. Most of them actually will get a custom-made belt, where instead of it being athletic tape, it's like sewed into the belt. Like the actual stripe is, it's not like a piece of athletic tape like most of us have. It's actually like a fabric that's sewn in, and it looks really cool. It looks really professional. But that's usually what these guys get done, or from what I've seen, usually their students get it done for them, or whoever's giving them the belt will a lot of times get like a custom belt made with their name on it, and it'll have the stripe all professional and sewn in and all that stuff, because obviously it's a super high honor to get a coral belt or something like that. But yeah, I thought that was worth breaking down. But yeah, and then the 10th degree is reserved only, and this is common in most martial arts like Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, basically every martial art that I know of. Karate might be different. Again, if you're a karate guy, maybe let me know if I'm off base here. But the 10th degree is reserved only for the founders of the martial art. So Helio Gracie, Carlos Gracie, and I believe there's a few other 10th degree black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But no, I don't believe they're ever going to award any more, because the whole point is that the 10th degree is reserved for the person that started the martial art. Like in Judo, I believe Jigoro Kano and a few of his founding students are the only 10th degree black belts. And up to that point in Judo, you can only today only hit the 9th degree. And the 9th degree is considered like, the highest rank, because that's the highest that they're going to give. Because they're going to keep the 10th degree for the person that started the whole thing. And that person is considered the grandest master.
The grandest of them all.
The grandest of all masters. So yeah, again, I've got to look some of this stuff up. I'll put some notes maybe in the comments if I got something wrong, or maybe I'll just edit it into this video. But yeah, it's kind of confusing, honestly, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu belt structure.